Loveland Farm is really a reaction against 2009, 2008, when the credit crunch hit. We were designing for quite a lot of people. The world and everything stopped. Now, I thought in one way there was a way of some positivity coming out of the idea of the credit crunch, because the whole idea was that we were the generation that Thatcher told to go and buy houses. So we got the debts, you know, the kids all went to colleges, got debts, and we were like in a debt-ridden society. So I actually thought it was after the initial thought, oh shit, where, you know, what's gone wrong. It was actually quite cleansing, the idea of returning to something a bit more real and not putting everything just on HP and getting your mortgage down. So for me, I was completely up for the idea of having a big change. Come and have a look at the pigs. What's up with you? So yeah, these are, you know, like a lot of this again is just about learning and understanding, you know. I didn't know any of this when I was in London, you know. Wait. Thing is, as soon as you have kids, you're not doing the drugs, you're not partying, you know, like in London you get over the party thing quite a young age sort of thing. So and moving to the countryside, you have to find other things, you know, other interests. And you know, the first time we had pigs, you know, the thing is, you know, you start understanding or trying to understand where your food comes from, you know. And it's awful, some of where our food comes from, you know. And you suddenly actually taste real food and real meat, you know, and real vegetables. It's a million miles. A lot of the world and the world economy is only moving because we move, and you only have to move because someone else moves. So as soon as it stops, there is that sort of pyramid idea that we fall off the cliff sort of thing. And you know, we're coming to the end of our natural resources, you know, the world, climate change. And I just thought, hey, you know, like, instead of just talking about it, why don't we do it? So in a way, what I'm doing at Loveland Farm is a bit of an experiment as well. We've got the design studio. We've got buffaloes, pigs, lambs, sheep, ducks, and it's all about learning, you know. Duck liver pate I learned to make recently, you know. Alcohol, how do you make that? How do you make manure, compost? And I think all those things is just going really back to the same as when I was at college. I'm a sponge, you know. I soak up information, and I love information. It's just a shame my memory's isn't better. But the clothing is what I do. I'm good at what I do. I get paid for what I do. But I needed more, you know. And I think a lot of rock stars end up having farms, and probably I'm just getting older, and you know, in that way, doing the same thing as them, you know. Doing? You're rough. You be gentle with Elvis. What I loved about being a designer and going to art college was a sponge, you know. I was just, you know, I was mainly brought up in the countryside, so I was just like a sponge, you know. So being in central London, politically we were all anti-Thatcher, so it was an exciting time. My collection at St Martin's was mixing streetwear, youth culture, very black orientated in. I was looking at the ANC and tribal culture from Africa, Maasai warriors. Also at the time we'd all been protesting to get Mandela released. So there was lots of like influences from those sort of inspirations from London. You know, #1 in the charts at the time was Soul to Soul. So it was a massive feeling at the time of we're all coming together as one nation, one people sort of thing. So that was what my collection was based on. But there was a sleeping bag coat in the collection. There was touches of what we've been doing recently, using zips and undoing garments and sleeping bag coats. But there was no military. That's the one thing that there wasn't, which has only been later on that we've moved into more military, I suppose. So we found recently, you know, the collection I was telling you from St. Martin's. We found a piece recently, you know, like you know, just with the same, you know, like that coat that we're doing for Baracuta. It's got that same sort of hood where you zip it right up, you know. And it was like, you know, looking at the Union Jack and the Rasta flag and then quilting it all together, you know. So yeah, archives. We've got everything in here, you know. We've got up here. We've got a jack. This is for American issue. For the Pacific. There's a ton of ideas on there, you know. It's just beautiful, but it's also like it was real, you know. Someone wore it, you know. Someone, you know. We've got a sleeping bag coat from our exhibition in 2001. We got military. We got some Woolrich fabric from a Woolrich Parker. We got this, which is one of my favourite camouflages. It's a reversible Second World War US Marine Corps jacket. You know, this is a garment that we did back in 2001. You know, made out of a British wool, but with its gloves and its. But in the end, it got used. If you think about now how everyone's got like the hoodies with the zips going up over their hoods and what have you, you know, that was developed 14 years ago, you know. So it's a library of ideas. This is made. It's made in the same way as they make a Mackintosh coat. Basically, it's all hand glued. But it's for the pilots, the helicopter pilots who are going in the water, or might have to go into the water. But it's just one of those garments that it's just got everything on it. You know, it's just you know, like got 110 ideas. Why do I love military? It's just like you look at it and you go, whoa, you know, that's cool. You know, why or how or what? But you know, it's just functional and it's fantastic. Got quite a lot of British Army, got Japanese, you know, the smock, you know, the parachuter smock is always big favourite. It's from the 50s. Dispatch riders, Mackintosh coats. I come from quite a poorish family sort of thing, so throughout the whole of St. Martin's I had to work, you know, so I was always making things, selling things, making things, you know. I was selling at Hyper at the time, started up my own business, and I was like a spunky little entrepreneur, you know. I bought a little house in Derby, I was doing that up, I was looking to buy a big tower block. So I was just that sort of age where I was just up for it, you know. I was like really, I was firing, I was running like crazy, and I think from the clothing side, I sold my collection finally to Soul, the band. So after taking inspiration from Jazzy B, I sold my collection to them at the time, and sold my house, bought a big Mercedes G-Wagon, and thought that was quite cool, and just decided to drive to Italy to get a job. So now you think it's quite a mad idea just to like drive across Europe at a young age of 21 and just just go looking for a job, and you forget we didn't have the internet, we didn't have anything, so it wasn't like you'd phone anyone. You'd just think, hey, I've got a portfolio, I'll just turn up and knock on people's doors. Luckily, I managed to get the first job. I walked down Della Via Spiga, I walked past Versace and Ferre, and the first door I walked in was a guy who's now head of the Royal College called Ike, and he gave me the job working for Gianmarco Venturi. Yeah, I think at that time it was being dynamic, and and there was a lot of naughty things you got involved in, running cannabis plants across London, and there was a lot of stuff you get involved in, but you're just young, you don't know, you just up for anything. Anyone offers you anything, you're doing it. I was working for different designers in London. Night time I was making stuff, daytime I was doing MMA at college. So you're just meeting everyone, you're doing it, and it's just dynamic. In 1994, when we first started, it was called Griffin Laundry. The reason for that was very much coming from I'd loved what Catherine Hamnett had done in 84, 85. I loved the idea of like the wash cottons, and so I liked the idea of laundry. I didn't really want to put the name under a designer. I wanted it to be a brand. I didn't want it to be so much just based about me. And when I always talk about we, because I've always loved collaborating, and I always think collaborating is a joy of just working with people and just bouncing off people, and it makes more of a party being a more of you sort of thing. Shush. Never worked with dogs and animals. We've used Griffin more as this little baby that we can just experiment with. So really a lot of Griffin is experimenting ideas just really for the other work I do for other people, which makes sense. It makes sense that you've got this experimental tool, experimental lab, just to like push ideas and what have you. And I think even with Loveland Farm and what we're doing here with our sustainable business and the self-sufficiency idea and the eco idea of what we're trying to achieve here with our hotel and our pod and our campsite, it's just ideas really. For me to have ideas and to keep a fresh mind means I need the time really with nature to give that fresh idea. So London, again, when I go into London, I'm a sponge, I'm soaking it up and what have you, but it does also at the same time get overload that you can't think, and you can't think past that next billboard or the next bit of music you're listening to, and sometimes it's really difficult to actually come up with ideas in the best city in the world, so I actually find planting trees and being out there with nature is actually, they all kick off each other and all just bring ideas to the table really. And I think what we're doing here is enjoyable. It's something that I needed that brain space to get away from London. I needed to get out and to think clearly, and the good thing is that there's a lot of people that follow things, where out here you can actually just think in a purer way. And I suppose with nature, it's just you're a sponge, you're soaking it all up, and that's what my thinking time is in the morning. From about 7:30 to 9:30 when I'm walking, walking the cliffs. I come back and the rest of the day is gone, because you're as soon as you're on the internet, as soon as you're on the email, your day's gone. But those first 2 hours is just pure and it's beautiful.